All right, there it goes. So, just recently, they said officially, I guess from the government or whoever, that aliens are real or whatever, which is the truth and fiction all at the same time. It's it's part of disclosure in a way, but they're just muddying the waters. They're trying to keep control of the narrative. They want the the mass amount of people to continue to come to them for answers about the world we live in, about how things work, and that kind of thing. Um, the thing is, the reason why disclosure has been postponed and put off for many years when people knew that there was definitely something going on, for a long time now. Um, it's for various reasons, which I agree with some of them, and I just don't agree with how they did it. But there's reasons why that they pushed off disclosure and didn't just flat out tell everybody everything because this information is next level. It's information that requires you to have a higher level of consciousness to really grasp and understand. And they don't want the world as a whole of people crashing out, basically, um, based off the information. Because if you give somebody a certain level of information and they don't have the base knowledge to to go off of, like it's like trying to give somebody the knowledge of algebra and you don't even know how to do one plus one and or one minus one or whatever. You don't have that base knowledge, but then you give them all this knowledge on how to do algebra. It's gonna make them confused and not really understand things, and it's gonna be difficult. It's gonna cause more problems than it actually solves. That's kind of a random example, but whatever. Anyways, um, so these beings that you're talking about, this technology, yes, technology exists. There is extraterrestrial type beings that aren't aren't human. Yes, that exists. You can call them aliens, but they're not really. Um, a better explanation is that we live in a spiritual world. This whole world is spiritual. It's the type of world that we live in is a spiritual type of world, right? So what that means is there are beings that are demons, there are beings that are angels, there are light beings that are just basically pure energy and pure light. There's multi-dimensional beings that aren't fully in our dimension. There's multiple levels of dimensions. Like we live in the third dimension, right? And there's the the fifth dimension, which controls pretty much how things operate in the third dimension. Not fully, but it has a big part to do with it. Uh, like I said, this stuff gets very deep and complicated, and that's why they've struggled for a long time on how to introduce the knowledge and basically what's going on. It's gotten to a point where they kind of had to release it because without with they want to keep control of the narrative. So if they don't release information and start letting people know that they have the knowledge, which technically they do, it's just how they release it. They muddy the water so much, and they're gonna tell you the information in a way that benefits them, right? The people that, and when I say them or they, it's just the people that are in control. And you can put any kind of name to that. It changes probably daily. And those people are people you'll never meet. The people that are really in control, you'll never meet them. It's just what it is. Um, so they they have occult knowledge. Occult just means hidden knowledge, secret knowledge. and they've kept that knowledge secret and hidden, and they use parts of that knowledge to their benefit to maintain the control. All right. And a lot of that knowledge is used in a way that is destructive and negative, right? So it's dark knowledge. It's dark in the way they use it, right? A lot of that knowledge is just like a tool. It's like a gun, right? A gun is not inherently bad or good. It's a tool. It's literally how you use it determines if it's a good gun or a bad gun, right? Really, it doesn't change the gun itself. The gun is a neutral object. It's the person using it is how the outcome comes out, right? Like, was it a good person using that gun to, you know, kill a deer to provide for their family? Or was it a bad person using it to go murder somebody, right? But the gun itself didn't change. It was the same gun, right? There's no difference. It's just how you use it. So the knowledge they have is similar to that, to where the knowledge is like a tool, and the things they can do with it is determined on the type of person using that knowledge and how they use it, right? Like, so if a good person's using it, good things can come, and it's positive and a good thing. If a bad person is using it in a negative way, then negative outcomes come and bad things happen. All right. And this is like spiritual type of knowledge. Like, you could say witchcraft, right? Which you hear witchcraft and you automatically think it's a bad thing, right? And that's designed for it to be that way so that people don't look into it and people don't investigate and figure out what it is. They just automatically point finger, oh, it's bad, right? It's just like saying, oh, all guns are bad, right? Which is not true. All guns are not bad, just like all witchcraft is not bad. All right, and there's different types. There's different versions of it. It's a lot of stuff. It's very deep. It's not so white and black. It's not so. There's a lot of gray areas, and you got to realize there's good ways to use witchcraft. Okay, and this is not. Some people are natural with it, which means they don't have to do a spell. They don't have to open up some book and read a spell out. They don't have to, put stuff in a cauldron and, cook up some recipe. They don't have to do none of that, because there's things called good witches, right? Remember, like the Wizard of Oz? There's a good witch of the West, or a good witch or whatever, and then there's a wicked witch, and right? There's good and bad. That was kind of like telling you about the stuff. And then remember, the guy that was in control of the whole, Emerald City, really is just one little guy, but he had some big thing, thinking it was some major thing, you know what I mean? Some big force in control, but really was just a guy operating some controls. That's kind of how the world works. And a lot of movies are like that. They tell you what it is. You just don't understand it. Okay? And when it comes to like spiritual type of stuff, they want you to be confused. They want you to be dumbed down and not have this knowledge, so that they can have the knowledge to themselves and use it in ways that they want to use it. And you don't know what's going on. So you think that it's, you got bad luck or something, but really there's somebody that doesn't like you and is doing witchcraft to you, and you don't even know it because you don't have the knowledge or haven't looked into witchcraft, right? So you don't know the signs, the signals, and like the symptoms of witchcraft when it's happening to you, because you haven't gained that knowledge to understand how it even works on a fundamental level. Okay? And getting back to the disclosure thing is all knowledge, information, technology, like any of the technology we've gotten, has come down from higher consciousness levels, has been given to us, right? Like, we didn't create shit. This stuff was already here long before we were ever even born. Anybody of this generation, anybody that's alive today, we didn't create any of this stuff. It was already created. These things have already been around. They were giving to us at certain stages of our, growth level of knowledge, of our ascension level, of our consciousness expansion, right? Because you can't give somebody a technology and then not know how to use it. So they had to give it to us at certain levels in certain parts of our existence to where the whole has gotten smart enough in being able to properly use technology and knowledge in a way that doesn't hurt or like have a negative effect on the world. Okay, that's part of the reason why disclosure hasn't happened as fast as they or people would have wanted it to happen, right? Because people are like, oh, just give us the information, just tell us what it is. It's not that easy. You have to have the underlying base information, right? You need to know all these. There's a whole list of things that you need to know to even be able to properly understand and comprehend how these things work on a technological level to really not crash the fuck out, right? Because just saying, oh, there's aliens exist, that doesn't mean shit. Like, what the fuck does that even mean, right? But if somebody explains to you why they exist, how they operate, the things they control in this world, our purpose of even being on Earth, like there's just so much stuff that needs to be known to be able to not have people go crazy, basically. And we're at like that convergence point where it's easy to share information and the information is going to come out regardless of this point. So right now, the powers that be or whoever are trying to control that narrative on how the information comes out, what people will information will actually come out, and what people will know, right? And the process on the and like how fast it's going to come out, and all of these things. They're trying to keep control of that, but that's just not how it's going to go down. And you really need to understand there's the people that have been in control of this knowledge, this occult knowledge, are mostly dark people. These are mostly, people that are controlling the world are not good people. These are Satanists, you know what I mean? Devil worshipping people, right? But it's gotten to a point where God's like, nah, we not doing that no more. My people are going to come clean this shit up. We're going to make things right. We're going to take back over, basically, of the giving of the knowledge for the betterment of humanity, because people are suffering without having certain technologies, whether it be information technologies or energy technologies. Like, we should easily have a car that goes over 100 miles a gallon. That should be so easy, but it doesn't want to be that way, because the people that own the oil or whatever, they don't want that to happen. And so those type of things like should have already happened. And the point that it hasn't is a problem, right? Because there's so many people that are suffering because they have to pay so much for gasoline, oil, whatever. There's just all kinds of technologies that could benefit humanity, and knowledge that could benefit humanity that has been suppressed and hidden for so long. And it's just time for it to come out. And that's just kind of where we're at. And I mean, we're basically walking into the Great Awakening, where people are going to be given this knowledge and start to realize why we are even here on this earth, and what we're doing here, or your purpose, and where you fit in and on the team, and all that stuff. And, this is kind of just the beginning of it. So, yeah, stay tuned. Holla at your boy.